This is a video on a brief description of the books that I've already written that are available on the web or from McGraw Hill or used bookstores, and therefore will tell you whether you should buy any of them or not, probably. Are You Creative 60 Models is a book that's formatted on B4 pages, 2,000 words a page, 700 pages, for cheap printing of each chapter by students. But actually, if you printed it in normal formats for nonfiction research books, it would be at 400 words a page. It would be a 3,500 page book. It is by far the most comprehensive, the most practical, the most theoretical, the most applied book on creativity that has ever been written. In some ways, and not always, it dwarfs various encyclopedias on creativity in its comprehensiveness, in its level of detail, in its thoroughness, and in its variety. Um, but it's written by one person, and that one person has taken it from the data from 8,000 people. So even in variety of source terms, on a technical basis, it comes from more sources than most encyclopedias that have 200 contributing professors. It does represent a unitary point of view. The next book is Are You Creative? 64 Steps of Becoming a Creator and 64 Steps of Creating. These are steps that were shared across most of my 150 eminent creators. And it's not models of creativity, it's steps of creativity. It's quite interesting to see what steps creators actually agree on. Steps of becoming a creator and steps of actually creating. The third book is Are You Educated? 48 Capabilities of Highly Educated People. And this was my attempt to redo Plato, to find out what the good and what excellent is in our time. And Are You Effective? 96 Methods is another part of that, because educatedness, effectiveness, and creativity were 3 out of 54 excellent sciences that I found in the Excellent Science Research Project I ran at the University of Chicago. Getting Real About Creativity in Business, again, it's on creativity. It's got one chapter there that presents 45 models of innovation. It's a tough book. I call it nasty in many ways, because it tries to counter what I call innovation noise in industry, this large incentive for everyone to lie and exaggerate how important creativity is and how much of it they're getting done. And it subtracts that out. So it's really nasty and disappointing to a VP who's been telling lies to himself and to his people for decades. And therefore, I didn't write it to be popular with business people. I wrote it to puncture their balloons and show the rest of us what's real. Once you see what's real about creativity and innovation, you can just blow past these VPs, because they are living in illusion and exaggeration. And if you're real, you can make real innovations that blow past them quite easily. Knowledge epitome. This is my pulling together all of my approaches to education and higher education. There's so many different things in there, and I haven't fully worked out my thinking on this in a coherent way. Although I've got 20 pieces that are fully worked out, but not the coherent picture they all fit into. But it's basically my imaging, trying to imagine an entirely different kind of school system, an actual school system for educating people instead of for informing them. Right now we have a school system for informing them, and since the web informs a lot better than teachers do, schools are very non-competitive and have a hard time competing for attention. Now, managing complexity. This is 20 of my earlier papers, carefully organized and put into coherent chapters of six papers each, under 3 kinds of complexity and 6 sources of complexity and how you handle those. Everything from designing and re-engineering software systems to total quality processes to launching venture businesses, all under a framework about tools for managing various types of complexity involved in those tasks. Superselling is really wonderful. It's my autobiography, 33 cases from my life, written as a sales methods book. I thought that was a cute idea anyway. And but when I looked at the 33 main events in my life in terms of what I've accomplished, they all turned out to be selling, immense kinds of, but not business selling. I mean, that's some of them, but all kinds of selling to kids, selling to your parents, selling things to yourself, selling changes of lifestyle for health purposes, etc. The whole gamut of kinds of selling that really are important in life. The kinds of selling everyone in the world does every day, not just pushing some stupid shampoo on somebody. Um, Taking place, creative city theory and practice. This is my version of urban design, place design, but more than that, it's the process of turning wild stuff into homes, new jobs, new cities, new workplaces, new families, turning those into homes. What do we do when we do that? And I've got about 30 cases there with a theory, actually a dozen theories presented, rather interesting theories. Managing Self. This is a 3,500 page book if you format it normally, although I format it on 1,000 pages. A book on challenges to managing a self in modern circumstances, and on dynamics of self-growth, which is the same in ancient religions, modern therapies, and the performing arts, changing being X into having X. And then the culture of the fact that a self is a culture is a self. Both of them are high performances, and high performances are selves and cultures. The fact that cultures, selves, and high performances are exactly the same thing, heavily practiced shared routines. It's a remarkable book because we've now found that everything in Freud was his sexual hydraulics came from a cocaine addiction. He wrote his first article just after taking cocaine, and as soon as he finished cocaine, he stopped writing those articles for the rest of his life. So all that sexual hydraulics and anal erotic stuff in Freud is cocaine theory of consciousness, but not Freud's theory of consciousness, and junk. And then object relations and other theories that followed it is just the attempt of the psychoanalytic school to survive Freud's errors. Basically, my book, although it's not from a practicing psychiatrist, is every bit as valid and probably a lot more clearly thought than a lot of these other books. And then Brain Power. This is a book of 15 different kinds of brain module and particular exercises. I think I have 7 exercises for each of those 15 brain modules. It's sort of what I give to consulting clients and students to catch them up to speed with where I am and how I operate. Excellent Science is written kind of late. It presents the overall context in which all of these other books were created, which is redefining Plato, that is, redefining the good and the excellent in our time by not with philosophy, religion, or politics, but with data. Who are the world's best people, and how did they reach the top of their 63 different fields in 41 nations? And then we found 54 distinct ways to rise to the top of nearly any field. One of those was by being highly educated acting. One of them was being highly effective. One of them was being highly creative. One of them was managing complexity. One of them was selling well, superselling. So all my other books are excellent sciences from this one research project. And in this book, I present that overall research project and some individual results from it as chapters. I've got books in process that are not released. One of them on 100 models of innovation called Your Door to Innovation. I may or may not separate another book from that, which is just the 100 models. So I'll have Your Door to Innovation with a lot of exercises, manga, poems, and help. And then I'll have a book maybe on 100 models, which is just the models and an explanation. 420 Dynamics of Silicon Valley Ventures and 420 Dynamics of Natural Selection are 2 books I'm writing this year. Probably be finished spring of 2013. I have Global Quality, a book by McGraw Hill, 1993, that is available a lot of used bookstores and in Amazon on the web. It's an 886-page book. It's still the most comprehensive book on quality. It's well beyond Six Sigma. Six Sigma was a sort of death point where Americans, anti-quality consultants, thrown out of work by quality consultants in the 1980s, got their revenge on quality by taking it over and turning it into a bunch of silly black belt things. It represented the death of quality in America, not the next step. And you can pretty much tell whether somebody knows what they're talking about whether they use the word Six Sigma as if it's real. My book, Global Quality, is about 8 approaches to quality beyond Six Sigma, and particularly the further developments in Japan and Germany that have gone beyond it, that are totally unreported in America, and I don't know why, and I no longer care to fix it myself. Implementing Japanese AI techniques is really the book in which I invented the idea of AI software circles, and then went to America from Japan and implemented it. Managing system effects, 256 system effects. This is really something important, and it's kind of interesting to me. This is no Santa Fe Institute stuff. This is just product development managers from 12 companies that I interviewed 20 years ago, asking them what nonlinear, unexpected effects of present actions they had to deal with. And a bunch of related questions like, how do they decide to trust a promoted person well enough to put them in charge of a project? What do they want to know about the guy to know that I can trust him to run a project team by himself, a product development team by himself? And it's handling these nonlinear surprises and anticipating them, that they wanted. And there are 256 of them, and Singate presents 11 of them. So, like, Mr. Singate, where are the other 240?